Hola students, welcome back to another video. In this video, our focus will be on an area or a topic that you need to know specifically for the 6-weekly test. So please remember to study the time as well as what we have covered so far under hobbies. Now, one section of the 6-weekly test will require you to write a letter in Spanish.
That's serious?
Nobody have any heart attack now. I want you to realize that the letter writing is basically the same paragraphs and the essays that you have been writing for us since grade 7. La única diferencia, the only difference is that now you're just adding your address, the date, the greetings, dear Pam, dear Roy, along with the closure, your friend, yours truly, etc. So that's the only difference. Now in the 6-weekly test as well as your exams, you'll be presented with an outline which looks similar to this one. So you'll be presented with a little context, and then you'll be presented with the cues. The cues are the various or the different information, the different things that should be included in the letter. So let us now focus on the address and the date. Now for the address and the date, it should be at the top right hand corner of your letter. And guess what? It should be in one line. I know that you're used to writing out in English, for example, Clarkstown, then in another line you'd have Clarkstown PO, and then in another line you'd have the date, right? That's how you do it in English. However, in Spanish, the address and the date should be in one line. So do not write out your complete address. I don't need to know that it is lot 34, the pink and blue house, etc. All you have to do is to select either the parish or the capital, or you can even put Jamaica, the country. After you have done that, you put a comma. So the address followed by a comma and then the date. How do we write the date? Just as how you would write it when you're heading up your book for Spanish class. So you'd put the day first. Is it the 21st, the 24th, de, followed by the month, de, then you put the year. So November 24, 2022 would be written as the 24, so that is 24, de, the month, which is Noviembre, de, the year, which is 2022. So the address and the date, the top right hand corner, you put the address first, followed by a comma, and then the date, just like how you write the date when you're heading up your books. And I have to also mention, please, por favor, do not translate your address. So don't put El Kingston, El Montego Bay, La Falmouth, none of that. Don't try to translate your address. The only time that your address is written in Spanish is if, for example, you live somewhere and the name of the place is actually already in Spanish. For example, Ocho Rios. That's already in Spanish, alright? So this is the first thing that you're going to write when you get to the 6-weekly and the examination when you get to this section of the exam, right? So you notice I have Trelawney, then I have a comma, followed by the date. So that is how I want you to write it. So the top right hand corner, one line. So the address, comma, followed by the date. Next up we have the greeting. The greeting tells us who you're writing the letter to. So dear Pam, dear Roy, dear Mary, etc. Now in Spanish, the word dear is either querido or querida. So both of the words mean dear. However, we use querido, the one ending with the O, when you're writing the letter to a male. So you'd say querido Pablo, querido Juan, querido Bobby. Whereas on the other hand, we use querida when we're writing the letter to a female. So querida Isabel, querida Jessica, querida Marisol, Maria, right? So querido if you're writing the letter to a boy, and querida if you're writing it to a girl. And the greeting should be on the left hand side and it is followed by a comma. Now please, por favor, you and I both know that there are some names that are definitely boy names or male names, and there are other names which are definitely female names. We do have a few names that can be used for both male and female, such as Daniel, because I know boys by the name of Daniel and I also know girls by the name of Daniel. The same thing goes for Jordan as well as Sam. So those names are, they can be used for both male and female. Put a name like Bobby, right? So you can have Bobby and then you go put querida. So you have to be careful. Remember, you get marks enough for the address and the date as well as the greeting. So don't lose marks on something as simple as this. So let us say, for example, that we're writing this letter to Pedro. What would we use? Would we use querido or would we use querida? we would use querido, excelente. Why? Because Pedro is a male. So this is how our letter would look so far. So our address and the date, top right hand corner in one line. Then we have our greetings to the left, followed by a comma. So now that we have our address and the date and the greetings, I want us to now go to the body of the letter. Now for the 6-weekly test as well as the examination, I want you to start off your letter with any of these two phrases. So either hola, ¿cómo estás? Espero que estés bien. Or hola, ¿qué tal? Espero que todo vaya bien contigo. So I want you to start off your letter with any of those two phrases. So study one of them for the exam as well as the 6-weekly. So after you say to the person, hey, what's up? I hope you're okay. Or hey, how are you? I hope everything is going okay with you. You then should continue the letter by using any of these two phrases below. Either estoy escribiendo para decirte sobre or te escribo para decirte sobre. Both of these phrases, you will realize that both of them, they mean the exact same thing. I am writing to tell you about, and then right there on the line, that is what you would put. You would put whatever the letter is about, right? So if we ask you to write about family, you'd put familia, about school, escuela, right? So you start off with one of these, any of these at the top, and then you continue with any one of these two at the bottom. And on the line, that is what you put, what your letter is about. So let us continue our letter. Remember, we're going to start off with one out of these two phrases. Entonces, therefore, this is what our letter would look like so far. So notice the address and the date, one line, the top right hand corner, address first, comma, followed by the date, just like how when you had up a Spanish book. Next up, we have the greetings to the left, querido Pedro. Querido because Pedro is a boy. If it was a girl, we would have used querida instead. Then we start off our letter with, hey, how are you? I hope that you are fine. Next up, you should inform the person why it is that you are writing the letter. So you're going to either use te escribo para decirte sobre or estoy escribiendo para decirte sobre. Remember that this letter should be about yourself and your family, so that is what we would write on the line. So notice we have te escribo para decirte sobre mi familia y yo. I'm writing to tell you about my family and I. Now to complete the body of the letter, we must add the cues from the outline. So you have to add responses to the cues from the outline. Now what I want for you to do, before you go ahead and you start writing the letter, I don't want you to write it in English first either, and then you go back and you try to translate it to Spanish. I also don't want for you to waste your time writing it in pencil and then you try to retrace it in pen. Right? Oftentimes you don't have enough time to retrace it and it just takes up a whole lot, right? And oftentimes it looks untidy and messy, right? And we don't want to give Miss Onfroy any untidy or messy work. So this is what I want for you to do. I want for you to take your pencil or your pen, anyone you prefer, and I want for you to write down, make little jottings beside each of the cues, notes on how you want to go about responding to each of the cues. How will this help? When you're ready to actually start writing the letter, you will have a basic idea of how you want to respond to the cues, and it will help your letter as well as your ideas to flow. So what you see I have there beside each of the cues, this is what I want for you to do. So notice cue number 1 says that you should put your name, your age, and your address. Notice what I have there beside it. Mi nombre es, me llamo, or yo soy. Why? Because that is how you'd go about presenting or giving somebody a name in Spanish, right? So you write that down in pencil. The next thing you should put is your age. How do you say your age? Yo tengo -años. How do you say your address? Yo vivo en, then you put where you live. So what I have there beside each of the cues, that's what I want for you to do in pen or pencil. Just write down your notes before, so when you're ready now to start fleshing out the letter, your ideas will flow better. So let's look on the letter together, right? So this is what we have so far. Also, please note or please be reminded that responses to each of the cues, they should be included in a separate paragraph. After you have completed the body of the letter, it will be time for you to add the closure. Now this is the phrase that we use to end or to close the letter, and it is found below the body of the letter to the left and it should be in line with the greeting. Now on the screen I have 10 different closures. You don't have to study all 10 of them. Relax, right? What I want for you to study for the exam as well as for the 6 weekly is the first one. That is your friend. Su amigo or su amiga. So all the boys you would write su amigo, and all the girls you would write su amiga. If you want, you could study a few others such as con amor or cuídate. So let us add the closure to our letter. So we have added the closure to our letter, and this is how it looks so far. Now finally, you have to include the name of the person who is writing the letter. So your name, the sender, and this is firma. This comes directly below the closing. So let us say, for example, that Juan is the one writing this letter. So directly below the closure, we would write Juan. So this is our complete letter. So notice our address and our date is in one line to the top right hand corner. Our greeting is to the left and it's followed by a comma. We use querido because Pedro is a male. We then said, hey, what's up? We hope everything's okay with the person, and then we also told the person why it is that we're writing the letter. Then we added information to each cue. We responded to each cue, and we did so in a separate paragraph, right? And then we closed our letter, su amigo, followed by a comma. Notice it is to the left and it is in line with the querido Pedro. And then we put the name of the sender, which is Juan. There's also a PDF document with notes on letter writing. Please ensure that you write the notes, you write off the practice letter. That's it for today. Adios. All the best on the 6 weekly and the exam.